Hello and welcome. This is lesson 2 of Last Epoch University. The first one we covered some of the basics of the game, but now we're going to start to get into some of the mechanics. In this one, we're going to get into the skills and passives, which are kind of like the first thing you need to know to start to create your character and get it up and running. So this is definitely one of the most important things that you'll want to learn. It's not hard to learn at all. But there are some areas where it could be a little confusing or not intuitive, so we will cover it all and help you get everything in order quicker. Let's go ahead and begin. We're going to talk about skills first. Skills are the abilities your character uses. So, like, if you want to use a bow attack, that's going to be a skill. Like, let's see, for example, if you use Cinder Strike, that's a skill where you do fire damage, and then at every third attack is a fire AoE. That would be your skill. There are 3 very general and oversimplified types of skills. So we mentioned damage, like a Cinder Strike is typically a damage skill where you're going to use it to actually deal the damage to the enemy to try and defeat them. There are support skills, which are things that will generally buff your character or debuff the enemy, give you more power or give them less in the fight. And then there are hybrids, things that can do a little bit of A, a little bit of B. They do some damage, they do some support. The thing about Last Epoch skills, though, is that because they have those skill trees where you can customize the experience that of each skill that you get with 20 total points, or actually more than 20 total points, if you have gear, how these skills work will change drastically depending on what you choose. So many skills can be any of these. They can be a pure damage, they can be a pure support, or they can be some sort of hybrid of the two. It's really up to you and what decisions you make as you're leveling your character and putting your skill points into your skills. So when it comes to skills, though, you need to know how to unlock them. So you're going to use them, right? But you have to, well, okay, how do I get these skills? I want to use Cinder Strike. How do I get them? So there's 3 different ways. You'll start off with one skill already on your bar, and then you will get skills either through leveling, which is simply doing the content, killing enemies, doing your quests, and eventually you'll hit each skill has a particular each skill that is unlocked through leveling has a particular level range that you'll get it. So for example, actually, this is not especially good example because this character is already leveled, but Cinder Strike here has, I believe, a level 7 requirement. And it will say under here, if you haven't unlocked it, it will say level 7. And so once you hit level 7 on your character, you will then gain access to Cinder Strike, if that's the level. I'm trying to, that's off of memory. It might be 9, or something like that, though. But you'll see it. You'll see it in this skills and specializations area. The other way is through the passive tree. So the passive tree is this thing here, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the passive tree has skills built into it. You can see here multi-shot is built into the marksman passive tree. If I were to put 5 points into the marksman passive tree, I would then get access to multi-shot. If I were to put 15 into it, I would then get access to dark quiver. And the other thing is when you select a mastery. So every class in the game, every character will start with a base class, and then eventually you will unlock the ability to choose a mastery. You'll be able to choose between 3. Right now I only show 2 because this is a pre-1.0 build of the game. Falconer will be unlocked by 1.0 when you play on February 21st or later, so you'll have all 3 choices. When you choose them, you get a special mastery skill. For example, if I choose Blade Dancer, which I have on this character, I'd get Dancing Strikes. If I chose Marksman, I'd get Detonating Arrow, and Falconer is going to have the Falcon, I believe, is its actual mastery skill. So every mastery has one particular skill that just by unlocking the mastery you get. Okay, so unlocking skills makes them usable, but it does not immediately open up the skill tree. We talked about how all these skills have skill trees, yeah? Let's take an example here. So Cinder Strike here has this big skill tree available to it. Shift has this one. They're all different, right? Umbral Blades has this one. But how do you get these skill trees and begin to invest in them? Well, that's through specializing in a particular skill. So you can see these are all specialized in here. We have all these already taken. So if I were, we'll just, this is not actually difficult for me to relevel it. So we're going to just take this off. And what you'll see is I have an open spot here. You'll start off with an open spot here. It opens up fairly early in the game. And then as you level up to level 50, this last one opens. You'll get all 5 of these slots. And what you do is you just click on an open one, and then you click on the skill that you want to specialize, and it is now specialized and capable of earning XP, and then you can invest points into it like this. So now we get our points, and we can put them in, and we can get more power out of this skill than we would have had otherwise. The other thing to know about skills, pretty important, it may seem obvious, but there's some little details. The skill hotbar. So, especially if you haven't played these games before, the skill hotbar is this thing down here. This is where you put your skills so they become usable. So, depending on which skill you put it in, or which skill slot you put it in, depends on what skill makes it work. So, this is in the Q. So, if I press Q, I can use it. If I had actually put it in here, I'd use W and I'd use it then. So, that is how we get access to those. And by the way, I just clicked on it to open them up. So you saw I clicked on it, and it was available to me. I just picked the skill that I wanted. You can also pick no skill if you wanted to do that. There are some times where that might be worth it. Also, the keybinds. You can see I have keybinds in here. These are not actually the default. I think the default are 1, 2, 3, and 4. And right-click for this. Yeah, I think it's 1, 2, 3, 4 right-click. But I've gone on my keybinds. Under settings, I have gone to gameplay, change input keys, and I have changed those to UWER. Okay, the left click button, though, cannot actually be changed by keybind, but it can have its behavior changed. So if you click on it here, this is just move. This is move and breakables. And this is actually use an ability. If you click on this, you can choose which ability to use. So if I clicked, let's see, R, then I think it only works on attack, so you have to be on something. But if I did, then it would shift. But I like it to just move me and nothing else. Okay, we showed skill trees. Let's talk about them a little bit more. So skill trees again are these guys here, these big trees where you can choose how to customize that skill. Every skill has a unique tree, every single one in the game as of 1.0. I think before that there's one skill, I think Healing Hands doesn't, but by 1.0 they all will. And of course you can access that through specializing into the skill, which we showed just a few minutes ago. Click on the open plus sign and add it. These are all taken, but there'd be an open plus sign here. Click on it and then choose the skill you want as long as it's available to you. So as far as the nodes go, so let's talk about this a little bit. So you see that there are nodes built into all these. All right, let's take the Shadow Cascade. There's nodes. They're all connecting here, and you can see these lines highlighting the ones that are used. So you will always start from the center. You'll start from right here. The skill's always going to be in there. And then you can branch out from there any of the things that connect to it. So from Shadow Cascade, if I had nothing in here, I could go to here to Rapid Expanse, I could go to Shadow Torrent, or I could go to Dismantle. Then from there, we can branch out further, with the one caveat being, look for these dots. These dots are how many points you need to have in the previous node to access the next one. So if I'm in Dismantle, let's say I put a point in Dismantle, I can access Execution here because it's only got one dot, but I need another point in it before I can access Onslaught, or I can access Crushing Darkness. So that is the only real requirement. You have to have a connecting node that's activated, and then you have to have the appropriate number of points, which are determined by these number of dots. Okay. Eventually, as you can see in the skill and specializations section, you'll have 5 total skills that can be specialized, which does equate to the number of skills in your skill bar. However, it doesn't have to be that the specialized skills are on your skill bar. Some can be triggered. You can have skills in your skill bar that are not specialized in. They just won't have any of the points invested, but they can still be used. That happens quite a bit. You have 5 total skills that you can actually specialize in. Now, when you specialize in a skill, it gains points by gaining XP while they're specialized. So you have to specialize it to gain any XP, which makes sense because you can't access the skill tree anyway. Once you do, you start getting XP from all the things you would normally do for getting character XP. It's the same stuff, so you don't have to do anything special. Just play the game the way you normally would, and you'll start getting points for your skills as you're leveling. You can have a maximum of 20 points without specific gear. So once I think it's around like the level 70s or something, you'll have all 20 points you can get from leveling. But then gear can give you even more than that. but 20 is the default before gear that you will be able to accrue. Okay, so you're playing with your skills. You like them, but you want to respec. You want to try something else. How do you do that? So all skills can be respec. In fact, I actually showed this a little earlier, but we can do it again. You can respec every single one of them that's in your specialization. And there's two ways of doing it. One is just to remove points. So you go in here to respec, and you go to remove points, and you can take it. Actually, I'm going to do this on the one I already did, just so I don't screw up my build even further. Okay, so we respec, and we can remove points. So let's say we don't want enfeeblement anymore. So we click on it. Oops. Do I have another one in there? Oh, yeah, right. Sorry. Moonlight Bomb was in here. I just didn't see it. So we click on Moonlight Bomb, and we respec 1 point, and we remove it. So as you can see there is a restriction, which is you can't get rid of a connecting node that that another node is requiring in order to be activated if it is activated. So this one was activated. I can't remove enfeeblement until I've removed Moonlight Bomb, and then I did, and now I can. So that's the first option. And the other one is, let's say you want to start fresh, or you want to use an entirely new skill. Instead of taking out individual points, you would just despecialize the skill. It removes it completely from the bar, and then you can click here again and either choose the same skill if you want that one, or if you want an entirely new skill, you can choose the entirely new skill, and now you have it. I don't want that skill, but if I did, I would have it. There we go, back to where we were, and we're good. Just like that. Okay, so another thing to understand with skills and respecing, and you might have noticed this, is when I'm respecing, I've got 10 points given to me. So we'll do it one more time. I respec, I'll despec out completely. There's 10 points here, right? So I can put 10 of the 20 in immediately. So why can I do that? It's actually showing 11. That's from gear, so don't get too confused. It's showing 11, but it's not. It wouldn't be 11 from your from the skill tree itself. It's because something I'm wearing is giving me an additional point, but I'm getting 10 for free. That's called the minimum specialized level. And you start off with none, and then eventually you end up with 10. My character's high enough level where it has the full 10. So you can completely respec out of a skill and then not start completely over. And if the higher level you are, the easier that is. So if you remove a point below whatever the minimum specialized level is, that's when you get the extra points. So if I'm at 20 and I remove 4 points, I'm only down to 16, I don't get anything. I don't get any of those points back. I have to re-level all of those. But if I'm at 12 and I take out 4 and I go to 8, so I'm underneath the 10, I'd get 2 points back. So I can put 2 into it, and then I have to level the other 2. And also respec points re-level at an accelerated rate from what they would the first time. So if you've leveled in one of those skill slots, and then you take out points or respec altogether, and you have to re-level some of them, it will go faster than the first time. Do bear in mind that the way that the system is currently, lower level respecing can be punishing, while at higher levels it's easy, because you don't have the minimum levels, and it's also it takes a little bit longer to level earlier because you get more XP higher. So you can actually re-level entire skill in some cases in one map at higher levels, but it'll take you quite a bit longer at lower levels. So do bear that in mind if you're someone who likes to experiment a lot. Maybe wait. If your build is working fairly well, wait a little while until it's easier to respec. Maybe don't do it so early. I know it's a little counterintuitive, and I don't particularly like it myself. I think it would be better if we could respec more freely early game, and it was a little bit harder later game. But currently, the way the game works, it's just the opposite of that. It's easier later, harder earlier. So be careful not removing too many points early and making yourself really weak compared to what you could have been. All right, let's go to part 2 here, which is the passive. So we talked about the skills. That's the active part. Now the passive. So this is the passive tree. Each class, including the base and all masteries, have their own tree. So we go back into our rogue here, our Blade Dancer rogue. And this is the base tree. Every class has a base tree. Rogue, Primalist, Mage, Sentinel. Who am I missing? Acolyte. Yeah, it's all 5. So they all have a base tree, and then they all have 3 masteries. So this is your base tree. It'll always be here in that spot, and then you'll have these. So how this works is you master into one of these, and then you have access to the entire mastery tree. So I have access to all of Blade Dancer, and I have access to all of Rogue. However, there's also Marksman here, and there will be Falconer. These will work identically in that there's this chain that goes across right in the middle. that means I can't go past that point. So I can invest in this bottom half as much as I want to. If I want to invest in marksman, it so happens in this build I don't want to, but there are many builds where I would want to. I'd want to master in one and still invest some points into a class mastery that I had not mastered into. I can do that for the first half, but the second half is completely cut off to me, which includes skills that are up here. So I can't access Hail of Arrows as a Blade Dancer, no matter what. But I can access Multi-Shot and Dark Quiver if for some reason I want to use those. So you have a lot more of the passive tree than it might look like at first. You have the base, you have the one you mastered in, and you have half of the other two. Okay, as far as getting points, though, because you want to invest in these, yeah? You've got all these things you can see I've invested in these. I got 8 in here, 1, 5, 5. There are 2 ways that you get these. First is just through leveling. So you're going to level, and every time you level, you get a passive point. Every single one, except for the first one. The first one, you don't get a passive point, but after that, you get it. And then there's also quests that will reward you with passive points. I think there's 15 total from quests you get. In fact, we can see that on our map here. Passive point rewards, yeah, 15. In fact, I haven't got all 15 this character. I skipped some quests. I should probably go back and do those. But you can get up to 15 passive point rewards, yeah, from your quests, and that gets you up to about 115 or so, 114 or 115 total passive points that you can invest in the passive tree. You can also unlock higher up nodes and skills by putting oh, excuse me. Let me show this one. It's easier than trying to read it. So the way that this tree works is this stuff to the right is the higher up stuff, and then this is the lower up stuff. So when you first start, you will only have access to the, you probably just see it on this. You only have access to this. You can see this yellow line. Each tree is going to be like this. So I can access the first 3 nodes. I can access Draining Arrows, Focus Fire, and Assassin's Quiver on the Marksman. Now, if I were to invest 5 points total amongst all 3 of these, then I would get the second tree here. Another 5 points in the third tree. And that's truth for all of these. The only other restriction you have is you probably notice these lines with these dots going across, and these are similar to how they work in the skill trees. You have to invest a certain number of points based on that dot in the lower one in order to access the upper one. So, for example, if I wanted to access Woundmaker here and get crit vulnerability chance, I need to invest at least 1 point into Assassin's Quiver before I can do that. Let's look for one with more points in it, because there are a few like that. For some reason, I'm not finding any here. Okay, so this one seems to be just all ones. But sometimes you have to invest more. I know Primalist has a few that are like 3 or 4 points you have to invest before you can access the next one. So do bear that in mind. If you wanted to say, if you wanted to get Veil of Night, you have to put a point into Cloak of Shadows and Shroud of Dusk before you can access it. Okay. We talked about the mastery. And that you're going to be able to choose them. So let's talk about how that happens. So you're eventually going to master in one of the mastery classes. This is going to happen in the End of Time. The End of Time is basically the main hub in the game, but you get there pretty early on. Once you get there, the main story quest will just lead you to that. Eventually, he'll ask you, hey, which one do you want to do? So at that point, you'll get the option to invest in that tree. And we actually already covered most of this stuff here, where you have half of the others, half of the passive trees that you didn't master in, and then you'll have the entire tree for the one that you did master in. Do bear in mind that the mastery choice that you make is permanent. So a lot of people don't expect that. So for example, what I mean is the Blade Dancer that I am now is what this character will always be. This character can never be a marksman and can never be a falconer, even when falconer is available. It will always be Blade Dancer. There is no way to respec your mastery. So make sure that's what you want. Like, really think about it before you choose it, and make sure you're as comfortable as you can be. Obviously, for a new player, you can never fully know what you want, but just like, that's the one decision that you can't take back. It happens fairly early, so it's not crazy hard to create a new character and do it again if you don't like it, like immediately. But you will have to do that. You will have to reroll a character if you don't like your mastery. Okay, respecking passives. So we talked about respecking skills. Passives are a good bit different. Let's go ahead and I'll just take you where we go. The easiest way to do this is in the End of Time. This is that hub I was talking about. So we'll go in here. It'll take a second for this to load. And then once it gets in, we will look for the character with a brain icon. And we will go to him, and that is where, or her, excuse me, and that is where we can respec. So it's down here in the end of time. We pop down here, and we click on this person. And then we just choose Respecialize Mastery Point Allocations. And from here, we can take points out. So, for example, if I, for some reason, actually I don't want this point, so let's take this point out. I click on it, just like that. And it tells me it costs me gold, 280 gold. I'm good to go. Got like 5 million. So I respect that, and it's gone. That's pretty much as easy as it is. It's very easy. The other thing you can do that's just to make it even easier, let's say you have like 5 points that you want to get rid of quickly. Click on it and press enter, and you can do it really fast. So very easy to do, at least baseline. There are some restrictions though. So the first restriction is, remember we have the requirements to access higher nodes that you have to have a certain number of points to lower. If you try to take out lower nodes, that would shut down or no longer meet the requirements of the higher nodes. You won't be able to. Let's see if we can make that happen. So this one's actually not required. There we go. It's still not required. Still not required. Surprising. Still not required. Still not required. Okay, we're still good. Okay, so those are all fine. Let's keep going. Here we go. Cannot respec point. You have a point in a Suvin's Pact even tells you at least one of the nodes that is affected. Requires 25 points in Blade Dancer. So I cannot take this out until I put another point down below a Suvin's Pact. There's a Suvin's Pact. So if I go out of here and I put a point, let's say back into once, now I should be able to take exactly 1 point out of pursuit, and I can. And I can only take out 1 point. So that's always going to be a restriction that you'll have to deal with. And it makes sense. Otherwise, you'd be able to cheese the system. We don't want that. The other requirement is once you put any points in any mastery class, you must maintain 20 points, at least 20 points in the base class. Right now I have 24, so I'm fine. But if I wanted to take out more than that, let's say take out all 4 of those, and then I want to take out another, I just about 20, it's not going to let me. It won't let me take that out until I put another point somewhere. So if I get out of here and go back into it, now not respecing, I put 1 point in dodge and parry. I go back in and I try to take that point out of agility, I can. But only 1. They have to maintain 20 points in the base class because I have these. If I take out all of these, if I take out every point that I have in mastery classes, then I can take out all of the base class ones if I want to. But you have to maintain 20 as long as you have a point into your mastery class. Okay, anything we missed here? I don't think so. We got them all. Good. Okay. All right. That covers the skills and the passives. Hopefully you learned something. Hopefully you know how to respec a little bit easier. You understand how specializing in skills works, and you understand the requirements of investing in nodes, both in the active and passive skill trees. If you would like to hang out with us on Twitch or on Discord, I will have the information below. I stream this game a lot, and we have an active community for Discord for this game, so would love to have you there. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great time in Last Epoch, and I'll see you all again real soon.